We just finished touring the museum here at the complex to commemorate the Armenian Genocide in Yerevan. And I just wanted to share some reflections that me and Barnes had going on the museum. First, and primarily, the parallels between the Armenian Genocide and the Jewish Holocaust that happened 30 years later. And the striking parallels are, first of all, the status of the Armenian people was very similar to the Jewish people pre-Holocaust. They were a successful but oppressed minority who were mercantile in the same way the Jews were. And they were living under the Ottoman regime. They suffered some terrible atrocities at the pre-20th century, but relatively small scale. And then as the Ottoman Empire crumbled, as the Germans did post-World War I, as the Ottoman Empire crumbled pre-World War I, the young Turks who were establishing a new regime sought to utilise this ethnic hatred against the Armenians as a tool to help to improve their power and support their base, their ethnic base, and initiated the genocide to exterminate the Armenians, the Christian Armenians in their midst. The tools of their extermination were very similar to the tools the Nazis used. There were death marches, cattle trucks of deportation, torture, medical experiments, all is covered in the museum. And some of the people that, and there were German soldiers who as our allies of the Ottomans in the First World War, who were present and who's able to pass these ideas on to Germans later to the Nazis in years to come. The big difference, though, between the Armenian Genocide and the Holocaust is the international response. At the time, the Armenian Genocide was well covered. There's lots of witnesses, there's lots of journalistic writing describing what happened, but the international powers didn't recognise the severity, at least didn't say in terms of what they gave the Armenian people in terms of land, territory, or reparations. And that started in 1922, 1923 in the treaties of Lausanne and Sèvres after Versailles. And ever since then, the Armenians are a relatively small people, haven't had that recognition. In the last 20 years, since Armenian independence in 1991, post-Soviet Union, this has changed, and people are starting to become more aware of what happened. The Turks, however, still refuse to recognise the word genocide. They claim it is part of war. When we've seen this museum today, notably it is our Armenian museum, but the quotes and the documents that they have here show and prove that it was a premeditated occurrence. The Turks wanted to wipe out the Armenians, and this is something that most historians agree with. I think it's really important. We're here today to say, to anyone that's watching this, that it's really important that we, as Jewish people especially, we want people to recognise what happened to our people through that genocide, the Holocaust. We think that the Armenians deserve the same, and of the many countries that do officially recognise the Armenian Genocide, the UK and Israel do not, and we think that needs to change.